Hey guys, welcome back to another video after what is a really long time, I think almost 2 months. I know I said in my last video I'd make more of an effort to post more often, but with like moving and also being sick, I just never really had the opportunity to do that. So hopefully I'm going to be able to get back into the groove of it. This video is going to be again about my iPad and not necessarily like the features and um, usability of it, but more so um, iPad OS in 2023 and how great it is to actually use it. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the iPad is honestly just such a great machine. It does everything you could possibly want it to do. Honestly, if you wanted to replace it for your desktop, you probably could. It can do everyday tasks just well. Even from a coder's perspective, you can code on it. You can install VS Code and write any script that you want and basically build a whole application and infrastructure straight from your iPad. So it's really great. Even from like a multitasking perspective, iPad OS provides you with so many easy and intuitive to use features for even window sizing and multitasking through Stage Manager. So it's honestly such a great experience. You guys should definitely use it. Yeah, about that. If you thought I was just rambling a crazy minute and a half long rant about how great iPad OS is, then yeah, you probably think I'm crazy, and you're right to think so. iPad OS is honestly terrible for multitasking. So let's actually get into the video and see why I think the iPad has so much more potential than what it's really limited by right now by Apple. So yeah, let's get into it. So I guess the first major thing that I found really disappointing with the last iOS release was Stage Manager. I think me and also a lot of other pro users were expecting some form of multitasking tool on the iPad that would really make it some type of desktop experience feel. I know a lot of like Samsung tablets, especially on the Android side, they provide a whole emulated environment that is literally like a desktop experience where you can use your tablet to literally emulate what it would be like to be on a computer. And I guess Microsoft has this with their Surface, which literally runs Windows. But especially on the iPad, it definitely feels like Apple restricts you intentionally from being able to use the iPad in this way. Even Stage Manager's way of being able to include multiple windows, it's not really up to you or you're choosing to decide where those windows even are on the screen or even how the size of them are. Sure, it gives you some customizability, but it's not going to be anywhere near the level of granular control that you want. And I think this is by intention. I know a lot of other like tech YouTubers have talked about this, but Apple probably just doesn't want you to do that. Mainly because if this, I think mine is the iPad Pro from like 2 years ago, which doesn't have the M1 chip, but even then, it's still crazy powerful and definitely capable enough to run a full-blown desktop machine. And now the iPads that we have right now, they run the M1 or the M2, depending on if you get the iPad Air or iPad Pro. So they're definitely fully capable of being able to be used in a more desktop-like environment. But think about it this way, if you're a student, if you want to get a new computer, then you could technically just have that iPad, and then that iPad could function as a tablet when you need it. And then if you plugged it into a monitor or something like that, if Apple really did give you the full experience of truly being able to use your iPad as a desktop, then yeah, you would be able to use it in that manner and you'd never have a need for a computer. So just the way Stage Manager works right now, especially some of the snippets that I'm showing on the screen, it shows really how the iPad is limited in its full potential. Now, my second thing that I think the iPad really struggles with, which should be a no-brainer for Apple to fix, is the lack of a dedicated file system on the iPad. Sure, the Files app now lets you create some type of dedicated folder structure within the iPad to organize all of your files, photos, and all of your media content should you download it from your browser. But the iPad still lacks a dedicated folder structure if you were to connect it to an external computer. If you take an Android tablet today, for example, and you just wanted to drag and drop a certain amount of PDFs or photos to your Android device, you would just be able to do it directly in the directory or folder that you want to. Or if you wanted to extract something from your phone and bring it back onto your computer, it's a very seamless process. Now, the counter argument to that would be, hey, with iOS, with iPadOS, they introduced this thing called Universal Control, where you can control your iPad through a cursor and mouse on your Mac or any other computer. And yeah, this has its merits, but in my experience, I found this also to be very buggy. It doesn't work all the time, and you're also doing file transfer through a wireless protocol, so it's still not as direct and efficient in some ways as a wire transfer would be. So just having that ability to control would be really nice. One thing I found kind of funny was iPad OS 17, the next release, is going to have a lot of dedicated support if you want to manage PDFs and be able to sign PDFs or annotate them. But if I'm a power user and I really am going through that many, wouldn't I just want to be able to directly transfer those PDFs between my computers just through a file, just through a wire? So things like that, it's like they provide you features to get things done, but at the same time they limit you as well. So the last thing is the misuse of the word pro. I think in the last few years in the tech industry, pro has just been, how can we cram the iPad with as many things as possible, mostly useless features that most pro users aren't going to use, and then just stick the word pro at the end of it anyways. I think what makes any device a real pro is, honestly, for whatever your use case is, having applications that actually support you being productive. And for me, like for a coder's perspective, there's nothing I can directly install on the iPad that is like, hey, this is something I can use to code every day. One workaround that I have is using VS Code Server, and I'm always having something running on my M2 Mac Mini that basically allows me to access all of my files and projects and repositories through GitHub on my iPad through the web browser. But again, this is not a native iPad experience. Like, wouldn't it be really cool if the iPad offered you a native terminal app that was supported by Apple? There would be limitless possibilities, even if it was just something as simple as just an app that you could install on the iPad. I wish that was something that was natively supported, because it would honestly allow pro users, especially from a coding perspective, to do so much more with their iPads. I guess the counter argument to that is, like, at that point, why do you even need an iPad? Why can't you just use a thin computer? And I think it's, at least for people like me, it's nice to just have that really small, slim form factor, which is now with these, with the newer generation of Apple chips that are so powerful, you still have all that performance, and then you can still be able to do it in something so incredibly light and thin and do it virtually anywhere. So I wish that was something that was still offered as an option, but as stated before, basically having the iPad form all of the functions of like a MacBook Air or something would significantly cut like market share for one of Apple's most popular products. So yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps up this video. I know I haven't been posting as much lately, and I hope to get back to that soon. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one relatively soon, hopefully. Alright, see you guys.